Hey folks, this is Picohan on the North American server, and this is the Tier 10 German battleship, the Grosser Kurfürst. This is patch 8.4, and it is domination mode on the map Warrior's Path. These days, a lot of people seem to think that the GK and the rest of the German battleship line has been considerably power crept. And that may be true if you want to play them in the stereotypical brawling role. The close range fights that benefit these ships are harder to find, and there are ships with better secondaries available, starting with the ridiculous Massachusetts. As with the Freddy, I'm not saying that the brawling playstyle is unworkable, only that a more conventional style with a more conventional build is a viable alternative, and you can still take advantage of some of the ship's distinguishing features. In this game, I started going out wide on the west side, but I cut back in after we took the cap with no contest. Not sure why I didn't pull the trigger on the Worcester, but the salvo on the Neptune turned out alright. That being said, despite getting the cap, we're actually heavily outnumbered on this flank, so I'm still trying to take things cautiously. The Alaska dies, leaving us a 3 versus 6 in the west. I line up the guns on the Yagumo, but our Yagumo manages to torp him, which helps a lot. I take a shot at the Neptune again, since he's the thing I can actually delete, and it's okay, but the Slava obliterates him seconds later. The Slava looks like he's pushing through, and with the DD out of the way, I will see if I can move up and try to help him out. I tried to take a shot on the Vlad, but he was turning in hard and my hits were garbage. The Slava is moving in such a way that I will stack up with him if I go forward rather than create a crossfire, so I stop and hold instead. The second salvo is also kind of crappy. He's definitely too angled for me to be aiming that low. For the third shot, I do decide to go for the superstructure, and the 8k from that is actually not bad. This time, our Yugumo goes down, but not before landing a pretty good strike on the Vlad, and the red team is pretty hurt on this side, despite it being a 2 versus 4 now. That being said, the Slava is about to go down, and my next salvo on the Vlad whiffs, but I think I can take out the rest of these guys, so I start moving to try to find a better shot. I might have popped the plane thinking I had a fighter, but the CV doesn't do much damage, save for starting a fire anyway. Looking for line of sight on the Yam here, but our Worcester burns him down, so I'm going to go for the Vlad next. The first salvo is a poor trade, as I can't turn the ship fast enough due to the enormous 1,000-meter plus turning circle. I waited until he fired to use the back guns since the firing angles are so poor. In fact, the poor firing angles are one reason I think brawling with the ship is overrated even before power creep. The GK does have an icebreaker bow, but if I want to protect myself at this range, I can't use my rear guns on the ship in front of me, and the arcs on the secondary battery aren't great either. The German ships are famous for the turtleback, but that only really prevents you from being dev struck. You still take massive damage if you show your side. One advantage the GK has over the Montana, and I allude to the Montana because I tend to play it similarly, is a faster reload, which is amplified by the fact that Monty usually takes aiming mod, whereas GK can take reload mod, bringing it down to 25.5 seconds. The Vlad, in fact, quips in chat that he thinks he could have taken me down if it weren't for that fast reload, but on the flip side, the Vlad also has a slow reload. Coming around this corner, I unload the front guns on the Worcester, though it wasn't a good hit. I decided not to use the back guns to protect myself, and I think it paid off this time as the Iowa does practically no damage on his salvo, and I finish him off with just the front guns, letting me use the rear on the Worcester. The GK also resists low caliber HE spam better than the Monty due to the abundance of 50mm plus plating all over the ship. The Worcester with IFHE will pen a lot of the Monty's 38mm plating, but it can mostly only set fire to the GK. That being said, I still don't want to show full broadside in order to minimize the area he can hit, and also because he can still do broadside damage with AP. I started turning the ship around even before the Worcester was dead, because I'm very far from the fight, and it's still kind of a close game. I take some pot shots at the Iowa, but he is fast and maneuvering, and everything misses. I've said before that the GK is better at landing a few hits on an unpredictable target, whereas the Monty is better at landing more hits on a predictable target, but this is much too far for the GK to be effective. The carrier has been going after me for a while, but since it's a tier 8 CV, it's not that easy for him to have impact in a tier 10 game, and the GK has decent AA as well. I wasn't going to try to go for the CV because I didn't think I could spot or catch him, but he makes me maneuver such that I do spot him, and the guy's turning into me as well. I don't Damacon the Flood from his first drop because of A, the flooding nerf, and B, because he's so close. His turnaround time is quick enough at this distance such that he could easily set a double fire with dive bombers after I repair the flood, so I'd like to kill him first. That being said, 2 salvos is all I need, and I end up using the Damacon on a double fire. But then he gets one more fire with his remaining planes, which is really annoying. By the time the CV goes down, I'm even further away from the fight, so I'm going to fast forward a minute or two while I drive over there. Along the way, I swapped to HE briefly because the Yam was far away and reasonably angled, so I'd rather try my luck with fires. Unfortunately, I never got line of sight, and I switched back to AP as the range closed. I aimed high on the first salvo since he was still angled, and the result was actually decent, but what I'm hoping is that the Chungmu's torps will make him turn north such that I can blast his broadside. Shima shows up just as I fire, so he is of course the priority target for the next salvo, as the game isn't necessarily won yet. The first salvo on the Shima whiffed, but he does get respotted, and I spread out the next shot as I only need one shell hit. This is exactly the kind of shot that I think the GK has a better chance of landing than the Monty, and we do finish him off for the Kraken. In the process, though, I've given a lot of damage to the Yam in order to use the back guns, but now I can give him my full attention. I go straight bow in to try to take advantage of the icebreaker, and I don't try to use the back guns until he fires all of his. Unfortunately, it takes longer than I anticipate to get the back guns around, so I try to line up a full salvo, and we end up trading for the 6th and final kill. So that's the Kurfürst, the potentially power-crept German battleship, but my averages are almost identical between it and the Monty, so I believe there is at least a way to make it work. Despite what I said about traditional battleship play, this was a closer range fight than usual, but it is also a conventional tank build. Either way, I think this shows off some of the features of the GK, the poor firing arcs, the fast reload, the resistance to HE, and even the turtleback, as the Yam couldn't delete me at the end. The 6 kills is just gravy on top of the 216,000 damage. And on that note, this is the end of the video, so have a nice day.